Imagine you're sitting comfortably in front of your TV when the television screen flashes major update. The camera zooms in on the news anchor and he says,
Ladies and gentlemen, the Elliott Corporation has now achieved artificial general intelligence.
At first, you pause, not thinking much about it, as news updates are commonplace in a world of constant technological innovation. However, scenes of apocalyptic devastation and a robot uprising flash across the screen. This is followed by scenes of a serene landscape in which utopia is finally achieved. Experts go back and forth, haggling over the possible impacts. Within a few short weeks, though, we all realize we're standing on the edge of the single biggest disruption to human existence since the advent of fire. The AGI genie is out of the bottle, and there's no putting it back in. From business to politics to financial markets, the world has changed instantly. In the halls of education, we scramble for relevance, and there is a debate as furious as that of the experts. Some are calling AGI the end of human intellectual dominance. Others are calling it the ultimate educational equalizer. The debate boils down to one simple question: whether AI will finally break the factory model of education or strip away the last vestiges of humanity. Today, we're going to debate this soon-to-be-realized reality. The truth is, our current education system needs help as it is built to produce workers, not thinkers. It relies on a one-size-fits-all curriculum that fails the genius and struggler alike. For decades, we've known the system is broken. We've known that a letter grade on a report card tells you almost nothing about a child's actual potential. As we struggle to incorporate successful educational practices, the advent of AGI brings a seismic shift to the educational landscape. I want you to imagine for a moment a robot entering a classroom. It is the most intelligent being on the planet, intellectually smarter than the whole of human existence. It brings with it two very different futures. On one hand, we have the promise of adaptive learning, systems that can finally kill the standardized test and treat your child as a unique individual. Imagine a classroom catered exactly to your child's strengths and weaknesses, stimulating wonder and enthusiasm while bolstering the areas that challenge them. It is a world of constant growth and intellectual stimulation. On the other hand, we face a massive risk: dehumanization. The risk is that in our quest for efficiency, we automate the very relationships that wire a child's brain for empathy and resilience. The human connection falls to the wayside, and the skill of reading facial microexpressions, vocal tone, and small affirmations of human contact is lost in the din of technological certainty. Let's look at the research, not the hype, to understand these two forces. We'll explore how intelligent algorithms could finally offer differentiated instruction that we've been promised for years. But we'll also look at the dark side. What happens to a child's social and emotional development when their primary mentor is a machine? So let's jump in. Section 1, the industrial hangover. Before we understand where we're going to be going, we have to understand the educational trap that we're currently in. Let's be honest. The current model of education is archaic. It's a snapshot in time. Your child sits down on a Tuesday morning, stressed and anxious, and takes a test that determines their value in the eyes of a system. It's not a teacher problem, never has been, but a system problem. Teachers are overwhelmed. They have 30 students, 30 different learning styles, and 1 hour to teach a complex concept. It is humanly impossible for one teacher to effectively differentiate instruction for every child in that room. So what happens? We teach in a generalized format. The bright kids get bored and check out. The kids who need more time get left behind and internalize the idea that they're stupid. This is the tragedy of the industrial model. It ignores the nuance of the developing brain. Research tells us that learning is nonlinear, it's messy. It involves failure, regression, and sudden leaps of understanding. However, our current grading system treats learning as a linear progression. This is where the friction lies. We are trying to prepare children for a dynamic, now AI-influenced future using tools from the steam engine era. And the disconnect is causing massive anxiety in our homes. Parents, how many nights have you spent fighting with your child over homework that feels pointless? That friction exists because the system isn't designed for the child. It's designed for the bureaucracy, accountability, and test results that don't predict future success. AI disrupts this factory model because it doesn't care about bureaucracy. It cares about adaptive learning. And for the first time, we have the technology to evaluate the developmental process, not just the output. The desire to embed this technology will be incredibly seductive. But that capability comes with a heavy price tag if we aren't careful. That takes us to section 2, the promise of adaptive evaluation. Let's look at the positive side first. The research on adaptive evaluation is genuinely groundbreaking. Imagine a scenario where your child never takes a standardized test again. Instead, they interact with an intelligent tutoring system that continually assesses them in real time, without the anxiety of a final exam. Current research into natural language processing shows us that AI can now grade long-form answers, analyze the logic a student uses to solve a math problem, and identify exactly where the misconception lies. It doesn't just mark the answer wrong, it understands why it was wrong. This allows for true, differentiated, individualized instruction. In a traditional classroom, if your child struggles with fraction, well, the class moves on to decimals anyway. The gap widens. With adaptive AI, the system immediately recognizes the gap. It adjusts to the difficulty. It changes the way the material is presented. Maybe your child needs a visual explanation instead of a text-based one. The AI pivots instantly. It's like having a one-to-one coach sitting next to every single student 24 hours a day. This is huge for the distracted genius or the child with ADHD who gets lost in the noise of crowded classrooms. These systems can track performance patterns that a human teacher might miss. They can see that your child performs better in short bursts, or that they struggle specifically with vocabulary but excel at logic. By analyzing these learning styles in real time, AI can tailor the educational experience to the biological reality of your child's brain. It removes the shame of falling behind because the concept of behind disappears. Everyone is simply on their own path. This is the democratization of elite education. Historically, only the wealthy could afford private tutors that customize education for their children. Adaptive evaluation has the potential to give that level of personalization to every child. But, and this is a massive but, we have to ask ourselves, what is the cost of removing the human element from the feedback loop? That takes us to section 3, the peril, the dehumanization risk. This leads us to the dark side, the risk of dehumanization. Let's be real. Convenience is addictive. It's much easier to let an algorithm grade an essay than it is for a teacher to sit down with a student and discuss their ideas. It is much easier to put a child in front of a screen that adapts to their level than to manage the complex social dynamics of a classroom. But studies and policy reports are already warning us about the erosion of the teacher-student relationship. We've known from decades of research that learning is not just cognitive, it is deeply social and emotional. The brain's prefrontal cortex, the CEO of the brain, wires itself through this interaction with other humans. When a teacher looks at a student in the eye and says, "I believe in you," that triggers a biological response that an iPad simply can never replicate. If we replace human judgment with an algorithmic judgment, we risk turning schools into data processing centers. There is a concept called social capital. It's the value we get from our relationships. When a student struggles and asks a teacher for help, they are building social capital. They are learning advocacy. They are learning how to navigate authority. If an AI predicts they are struggling and fixes it before they even have to ask, we are robbing the student of that critical social development. Furthermore, we risk the over-automation of feedback. Feedback is most effective when it is empathetic. A computer can tell you your grammar is wrong, but can a computer tell you that your story moved them? Can a computer validate your child's unique perspective on the world? No. It can only validate their compliance with the data set. There is also the risk of algorithmic bias. If the AI is trained on historical data and that data reflects the biases of the past, we risk cementing those biases into the future. We might have an AI that subtly steers certain demographics of children away from advanced math or creative writing based on performance patterns. We can't rely on tech companies to solve this moral dilemma. They won't. They are building for efficiency and, dare I say, profit. We have to build for humanity while incorporating the tools of progress. And that takes us on to Section 4, the social emotional void. This brings us to the core of my work, the complex development of human across 5 domains: intellectual, social, emotional, ethical, and physical intelligence. My research suggests that childhood is a critical window for developing wisdom, empathy, health, moral fortitude, and social skills. These are not soft skills, as some claim. It's biological engineering. These 5 overlapping intelligences predict future success. If a child spends 6 hours a day interacting with a digital interface that is perfectly optimized to their needs, they're never forced to adapt to the needs of others, consider a flaw within themselves, or wrestle with a moral dilemma. Think about it. In the real world, people are not adaptive algorithms. Your boss isn't going to adjust their communication style to perfectly match your learning preference. Your spouse isn't going to be a Taylor feedback loop. Real life is friction. Real life is misunderstanding. Real life is having to explain yourself 3 times because the other person isn't getting it. If schools become perfectly streamlined environments of adaptive learning, we are removing the good friction. We're removing the grit. I want to hear from you in the comments. Do you see this in your own home or school? When your child is on a device, do they seem more emotionally regulated or less? Do they have more patience for human imperfection or less? Let's start a conversation here. The danger here is that we raise a generation of children who are intellectually brilliant, who can solve complex calculus because the AI taught them perfectly, but who are emotionally and socially stunted. They may have high IQs, but they lack the ability to read a room, to negotiate a conflict, or to tolerate the frustration of not being understood immediately. We are seeing this already. The rise in anxiety among young people tracks orthogonally with the rise in screen-based interaction. IQs, social skills, trust levels, and human health are all in decline. And the only thing that has changed is the advent of human convenience. If we push this model into the very core of our educational system, we risk creating a profound sense of isolation. A child might feel known by an algorithm, but unknown by the community. And that is a recipe for a mental health disaster. So that takes us to section 5, the future, augmentation, not replacement. So where does this leave us? Are we doomed? No, but we have to be intentional. The future of education cannot be human replaced AI. It must be human augmented AI. We need to use these adaptive tools to handle the heavy lifting of content delivery and grading. Let the AI handle the what, when, and how, the facts, the grammar, the calculation. This frees up the human teacher to focus on much more complex and important material, the why and the who, the mentoring, the debate, the emotional coaching. I want you to imagine a classroom where the teacher doesn't spend their evening grading 100 papers. The AI does that. The teacher spends their time designing a group project in which students collaborate, debate, and create something together. As parents, we have a role here too. We cannot rely on the school to provide the human connection if they are pivoting to tech. We have to double down on empathy at home. We have to ask our children not just, what did they learn today, but who did they help today? Why do you think that lesson was important? We have to reframe the purpose of school. It's no longer just about acquiring knowledge. Knowledge is now free and omnipresent. School must become the place where we learn to be human together. The impacts of AI on education are inevitable, and we stand on the precipice of artificial general intelligence. I think it's safe to say the train has left the station. We will see the incredible tools that can unlock the potential of children who have been left behind by the factory model. That is a good thing. But we must remain vigilant and intentional. We cannot trade our children's humanity for the sake of convenience. Efficiency is a metric for machines, not for people. If we fail to heed this warning, I'm afraid the human condition may become hollow. Let me leave you with the end of a poem to consider, The Hollow Men, T.S. Eliot. This is the way the world ends. This is the way the world ends. This is the way the world ends. Not with a bang, but a whimper. If this video helped you reframe your view of your child's future in education, please hit that like button and subscribe. It helps us to reach more parents who are navigating this new digital world. I'm Dr. Jonathan Strecker, author of Emergence, How Modern Convenience is Dumbing Down Our Children and What Parents and Schools Can Do About It. And I'll see you in my next video. Stay strong.